Hello and welcome. Today we will be giving a new SQL Server webinar on SQL Server 2016. It's the first part of a trilogy. It will be about DBA and BI features. First, we'll talk a bit about what's new in SQL Server 2016 for the DBA. I will be giving that part. Then there will be a part on what's new in SQL Server 2016 for BI, and that's a part Frederik Aerts will give. And then we have a small opportunity to give some questions and some answers. So first, what's new in SQL 2016 for DBAs? Today, I want to talk about a new game changer in query analyzing. It's called Query Store. What is Query Store? Query Store is a new feature in SQL Server 2016, which will make your troubleshooting for your queries a lot easier. So today we will talk about what is Query Store. Then we will talk why should we use Query Store, and then I'll show you how Query Store works. This will be a demo. So first, what is Query Store? Well, Query Store is a new troubleshooting tool for SQL Server 2016 to analyze your SQL Server queries and the performance of that query. Query Store is a database inside your database, which will store all your information on your query performance of your SQL Server. This will give you an ability to check out the historic view of your query performance. A problem we often have with SQL Server query plans is that your query works good at start and later your query performance degrades rapidly. With the Query Store, you can easily analyze this and check out what went wrong with your SQL Server query. Query Store is a troubleshooting tool which gives an historic view of your query performance, and your Query Store is stored inside your SQL Server database. Why should we use Query Store? Well, we should use Query Store because it's really easy to use. It's really a simple way of thoroughly analyzing your query performance. Before, when you had to analyze your performance of a query, you had to know a lot of DMVs to analyze your performance. You had to manually store some query plans in some other tables, your monitoring tables, to actually see what was happening with the query when it was executed over time. Now with Query Store, they totally changed this and they stored your data inside your SQL Server database, and this allows you to see the history of your query. Also, a very important feature is you can force a plan with your Query Store. Normally, when you want to force a plan, you want to force a query which has to use a certain plan to make it more performing. Now in Query Store, you can just say force this plan, and the plan will always be used for that query. Where in SQL 2012, 2008, 2005, 2000, you had to write a lot of code to enforce this. Then, how does Query Store work? We'll start with giving a demo. When we go and look here, you see our AdventureWorks database of our SQL Server 2016. It is a SQL Server 2016 instance. If you press here on Properties, you can see that we now have a new tab called Query Store. You can see here, you see your operation mode, and now it's read-write. If you want to change this, you can just click it, and then you can see you can turn it off, read only, or read write. There are three different stances. Off just means I'm not going to analyze any query data. Read only means I have already sampled my data and I just want to read it. I don't want to add new data to it. And read write, this will make sure your new query data gets into your Query Store and you can read from it. Then you have a lot of other configuration options. Your data flush interval, every 15 minutes your data will get flushed. Your statistics collection interval, so the statistics also get collected every 5 minutes. You can say a max size of your database, of your Query Store inside your database. Here it's 1 GB. And you can say your mode is all queries I want to capture and stuff like that. Here you can see in the section below your current disk usage. Here you can see that we have an AdventureWorks database which has 4 megabytes of data of your Query Store inside your SQL Server database. And here you can see that we have a SQL Server 2016 Query Store, which is about 1 GB of size, but we're only using 4 megabytes of that data. Now, if we want to purge our query data, so just say we want to refresh all our data of our query store, we press purge query data here, and everything gets deleted and it starts resampling from from scratch. Okay, now I've written a few queries. They're actually the samples of SQL Server 2016, which shows you have a lot of new DMVs to work with the query store. Here you can see this is your query store options. If you go and execute this, you see that it's the same thing you saw in the GUI, it just shows you all your configuration of your SQL Server query store. You can also alter all the options which you saw in the GUI through code. So it's normal that SQL Server will always give you a code way to do it and a GUI way to do it. This is the code way to do it. We're going to skip that. The thing I want to show you is you have a lot of information in your SQL Server query store, and here is something we can see. You can just show the last 10 queries which were executed on your SQL Server database. Go and check that. You can see, okay, these were the queries with that query ID, that text, and that plan, and the last execution time. You can also get the number of executions of a query, which is very easy to see. It's overall over time, over your whole history of your query store. So if you go and check that, you can see that this particular query has been executed 306 times. So you can analyze your query performance, and your overall workload to see which are the toughest queries, which queries are executed the most. But then the most important feature is you can get your queries which have more than one execution plan. This means that a query is changing over time and is getting a different execution plan, which means that maybe your performance is degrading or you're getting changes in your query plan. So let's go and check that. Here you can see that for this query we have 3 different plans. So now you get information on how these plans are behaving and for which query the plans are changing. Now this is the one you can see in code, but now you can also just see this in a nice and beautiful report, which you have here under AdventureWorks, the database. You have now a new tab called Query Store. And if you press Regress Queries, you can just see how your queries are performing at this moment. If you click this query, you can see, okay, this query has been executed the 4th of March 2016, and it took about 14,000 milliseconds, and you get your query plan with it. You can check for every query what the performance was, and that's so you can see what the plan is like and how it's performing at the moment. Now, if you press overall resource consumption, you can see here, if you press I want overall resource consumption over duration, and you press that, you can see here that this is a query which is executed at one time, which is performing very badly. This is taking all the execution time, so you can work on this query to change the plan and make it better, make it perform better. If you go and then see your top resource consuming queries, you can see here in duration or in execution count, logical reach, logical writes. You just press the query and you get here the average execution time over time. You can see this query has been executed 2 times. The first time it was really fast, the second time it was really slow. So there's something has changed in that data, so you can go and alter that. Then one very nice feature is you can track your queries. So I'm going back to the first part. Here we see we have 3 different plans for that query. If you go and track that query, just press in 1, press play. Let's say I want to see how this query performed over the last year. You can see that the query has changed over time. So we have a very fast query plan, then a mediocre query plan, and a slow query plan. Now we can see that the performance is degrading. So this plan is really slow, this is average, but this is really fast. So let's say we want to keep this plan, we just press force plan here, and then this query plan will always be used for that query. So that concludes my talk on Query Store, and which shows you the options you have with Query Store and how you can now easily analyze your query performance and alter your query performance. I will now give the word to Frederik Aerts, who will talk about new SQL Server 2016 features for BI.
Hello, this is Frederik speaking. So let's talk about the new features that are available in SQL 2016 for business intelligence. If you want to start playing with it yourself, the first thing you need, of course, is a SQL 2016. At this moment, it's the CTP 3.3. But you will also need the latest SQL Server Data Tools 2015 if you want to use the templates to play with all the new stuff. So what's new in integration services? One of the things that is new is on the level of debugging. Previously, when you redirected rows in the data flow to an error output, the output contained an ID for the column in which the error occurred, but you were not able to see the name of the column. Now they have added a few ways to find or display the name of the column where the error occurred. For example, in the data viewer output, there has been added a virtual column called error column description, and at the end you can see the name of the column. In previous versions, when running a package from the SSIS catalog, you were able to choose the SSIS logging level, and this was from 4 built-in levels. These were non-basic, performance, or verbose. What has been added now is that you can create your own custom logging level. You can start from an existing logging level, or you can start from scratch. And you then choose the statistics and the events that you want to capture. When you run a package from the SSIS catalog, you can then pick these customized logging levels. So in integration services on the level of connectors and tasks, there has been added a few components. One of them is the open data source. With the open data source component, you can consume data from an open data protocol service. This component supports the version 3 and the version 4 protocols. With the version 3 protocol, the Atom and the JSON data formats are supported. With the version 4 protocol, only the JSON format is supported. On the level of Hadoop distributed file systems, there are connection managers to connect to Hadoop clusters, and there is a source and a destination connector. The currently supported file formats for the destination connector are text, Avro, and ORC. At the control level also, there are tasks to do common Hadoop file system operations or to run Hive or Pig scripts on a Hadoop cluster. I haven't yet played with all of the Hadoop tasks and connectors yet, but it seems that they have established their place in SSIS. For Excel, there is now direct support for Excel 2013 and 2016, the latest 2 versions of Office. On the level of always on, there has also been an enhancement. Now it is much easier to work with always on. They've added the possibilities to let you easily deploy to a centralized SSIS catalog. You can now add the SSIS database to an always-on availability group, just like any other database. So when a failover happens, one of the secondary nodes will automatically become the new primary node. A few prerequisites are, of course, you need the Windows failover clustering. You need to install the SQL Server 2016 integration services components on each node, and you will need to enable the always-on feature for a SQL Service instance. On the level of deployment and integration services, first we had package deployment, then we had project deployment, and now there is a third one, incremental package deployment. So you can choose one package and you can deploy it to one project or to several projects or to a new project. Still in integration services, there is finally support for older versions. This has been requested many times. It is not yet available in a CTP 3.3, but yesterday it was announced that it is expected in release candidate 0. And the expected support for SQL Server will be for 2012, 2014, and of course 2016. Now, if we go to reporting services, there are a few new things as well. There is a new HTML5 rendering engine that targets modern browsers. It is the new default engine, but you will also have the option to switch back to the old rendering engine. For example, if you work with an older version of Internet Explorer. New in the designer, when you open a new report, you will see that there is a new design part at the top level. That is for designing your parameters. Using the design surface in the report builder, you can drag a parameter to a specific column and row in the parameters pane. And you can add and remove columns to change the layout of the pane. When you drag a parameter to a new column and row in the pane, the parameter order changes in the report data pane as well. When you change the order of the parameter in the report data pane, the location of the parameter in the pane is changed, so it is synced accordingly. Also new is that the possibility to render directly to PowerPoint. And it's also possible when you're viewing a report in the report manager, you can select report items and you can pin them to a Power BI dashboard. You cannot pin all items, but for example, charts, maps, images, certain panels can be pinned to Power BI. The SQL Server Mobile Report Publisher allows you to create and publish SQL Server Mobile reports to Reporting Services web portal. So you can see a screenshot over here. This is currently a separate design tool. I expect this to be integrated in future versions of SQL Server data tools, but that is to be seen. In the new Reporting Services web portal, you can, for example, add KPIs and favorite reports, and there is no more need to search for your reports in all of the folders. You just click them, you add them to your favorites page, and you have your custom report portal. Of course, the old version of the web portal is still available as well. Last but not least, analysis services. There are a few enhancements there as well. First of all, there's the improved DAX editor. As you can see in the image, they finally added colors, and also the IntelliSense has been improved a lot. Maybe you remember that when you did choose a column or a table and you entered an item from the list, that was not always working as expected. Well, it seems that it's now working as you expect. Calculated tables is also a new feature in analysis services. It already exists for a few months in Power BI. Now, what is a calculated table? This is a model-only table, and it is based on a DAX expression. So the expression you see, calendar with the 2 dates, is one of those DAX expressions that will finally result in a table. You can then add calculated columns to that as well. Another usage for a calculated tables, for example, is that you keep something like a master table, and you can then, based on that master table, create other tables, use some filtering. So very handy, and I think it will be used a lot. So what are new things now for direct query mode? At first, there is better performance. You still can only use data from a single relational database, so that is the same, but there are new data sources that are supported, like Oracle or Teradata. Direct query mode uses data that is stored in a relational database, so any DAX or MDX queries on the data are translated by analysis service into the corresponding SQL statements. Okay, that is a screenshot for the new calculated table. As you can see, it is available from the table menu and only in the grid. One thing that has been added as well is the possibility to add translations. So previously there was the need for the bits helper, but now it is integrated into analysis services. When you click on Manage Translations, it's possible to export translations to a JSON file. You can then give this to someone of the business, someone who will translate the columns, and then you can import it back into analysis services. I expect in the future some more changes to it that will be more visually. At the moment it's just a JSON file, but expect some enhancement there as well. So what about Power Query as a source in integration services and reporting services? At the moment it is not yet available, but I would say keep voting, be loud about it, because I will be happy if it will be there. And I think you will too. Okay. Thank you. Our next webinars will be on Friday, March 25, on April 15, April 29, and May 27. For more information and registration, go to the Kohera website /webinars. Thank you for your attention.